Hey, this is Max. I'm back with another CSR2 video. Today I am going to talk to you about every Tier 4 car that can be obtained in-game at this point that can also beat the 260 mile per hour speed trap as well as the 250 mile per hour speed trap at 658 performance point level. There are not that many of these cars, so I'm going to show you each of them and how I tune them at the specific PP points to meet the target numbers. So let's start with the Mustang Hpe 750. This is one of the three that can beat the entire Tempest without switching. So this is a very good car. I have a full video on this car as far as beating every single challenge in Tempest 3. With this car, you need to be basically fully maxed in order to meet the challenges. Body at stage 5 with tire stage 4 will put you at about 651 pp points, which allow you to kind of hit the 658 pp point challenge pretty easily. Now you can upgrade it to 657 with a little more tire, which just makes it easier. But the bottom line is you can hit 250 mile per hour relatively easily here, 252 just by dyno. How is it set up? Nitrous just long enough to give it a little more duration to hit those numbers. Notice 8.0 seems like a good spot because right around here you get a pretty long nitrous duration, and you're going to need it for that final gear because it's a long gear, and you don't want to run out of nitrous before you hit the finish line. Can you hit 260 with just this setup? Well, it's going to be tough, but with less tire grip, the car tends to go a little faster. 247 to 260 is about a 13 mile per hour difference. That's where the nitrous comes in. If it pushes it all the way through, it could possibly get you there. Now, am I confident that's going to do 260 at 657? No, but I am confident it'll do 250 at 657, which is actually the challenge you face. The highest mile per hour is 250 mile per hour at 658. Then you have to hit 260 mile per hour at maximum Evo, which if we put the final two stage on there, I can guarantee you this car will hit 260 mile per hour without a problem. So let's go ahead and do a 250 run and see where it ends up. It probably ends up somewhere in the high 250s for us, 254. So there's your 250 mile per hour run, no problem at all. Even though I set it up for 260, we hit 254. Now, how do you hit 260? Well, you're going to need that extra weight reduction from the body. Once you put that in, this will push the car to the 260 mark. So I'm going to show you that right now. The tune doesn't really need to be adjusted. Um, it just needs to be on nitrous near the end, and it should allow you to get there. Now, that also means if you want to just hit 260 without every stage 6, you can get away with it probably without the stage 6 tire. You're not going to get away with that with missing other stage 6s, though. You're going to need them. So, unfortunately, you need a pretty much maxed HPE to do the entire Tempest 3 all the way through. That being said, if your HPE is missing enough parts, you may want to consider some of the other options I'm going to show you in this video, because some cars in here can hit the entire 260 mile per hour without as many upgrades. All right, so here we go. The long 6th gear, which has to be on nitrous for you to hit the numbers, and boom, there it is, 261. So lower tire grip, put the transmission right about where you want the times to end, and nitrous with a long duration, and there is your tuning for the speed trap right there. Okay, so that is the Hpe 750, my top choice for Tempest 3, because I think this car, generally speaking, does everything relatively easily if it's fully maxed. So again, one of the best cars for Tempest 3 that you can get in the game still. There are some Fast and Furious cars which I'll show you, but you can't get them anymore. Now, the next one on the list is the Acura Nsx. This is the second car in this garage that can do the entire Tempest without switching. However, you need it basically maxed to make the sprint for 1.494, although you don't need much at all to hit 260 miles per hour. In fact, I have no stage 6s installed. Now I'm going to show you 260 miles per hour right now. this is a car that you may want to consider. If let's say you have some cars, you struggle through the first portion of Tempest 3 and you go, okay, I just need to hit those last speed traps now. This is a car to consider, but you need full fusions or at least close to it because right now, even with stage 5, I am well past 260 miles per hour. I have it set to 260 is where it ends, but even without using nitrous tricks and other tuning tricks, you're looking at 265 miles per hour. And the car will hit it. This is a 0 tire and 4.5 nitrous, which is stage 5 nitrous. The car is so fast in the higher gears, it just does 260 easily. One of the best cars for the 260 and the 250 mile per hour speed traps. And obviously, the slower ones like 210, 220, 230, 240s, it will be basically no trouble at all for this car. In fact, you may not even need to use nitrous to do that. Okay, in fact, now that I'm talking about it, I'm not going to use nitrous and see where it hits. Boom, 265, no nitrous. Okay, so from a speed trap standpoint, this is a car to go to. This is a go-to car, but you need the fusions. You need at least a stage 5 Nsx to pull it off. To do the sprints, whole different story. You need the rest of the stage 6s. You can get away with missing maybe 1 or 2 specific stage 6s with this car and still get through Tempest 3, but very, very hard. I'm not going to go into the sprints. That's a different video I already made. You can look at my videos and search for Acura Nsx sprints for Tempest 3. I show you how to do the final sprint. So this is car number 2 that can do the entire Tempest if it is basically maxed. Again, Tempest 3 Tier 4 is all about having a maxed car. If you don't have a maxed Tier 4 car, you're going to have to spend a lot of gold switching cars to kind of struggle through each piece. So that brings us to car number 3. This is the Rocket Bunny RX-7, recent PC Cup car. Some people got it maxed, most of us don't. Newer players, definitely not. Mazda Fusions, much like Honda Fusions, hard to come by too. So the RX-7 can get through the whole thing, but it really, really needs to be really, really maxed. And I mean fully maxed. You have to have every single fusion, every piece of the stage 6. Even then, the 658 PB point, 250 mile an hour speed trap is going to be a struggle. I have my nitrous set at 5.8, 2.45, and 60/40. Even with all this tweaking I've been doing, this is the only setting I've been able to squeeze by a 250 mile per hour run. Plus, you still got to time the nitrous accurately, or you're going to end up at 249. Okay, so this is one of those cars that really just barely do the job. And when it barely does it, it means you need every piece of fusion and every little thing you can get. I launched the nitrous at 7.2K, and it I don't know if I made it. That was a 249 I saw. Fingers crossed. 249.8. See what I'm talking about? Even with this setting, you can hit 250, but that nitrous timing has to be dead on. Little 1/10 of a second too early or 1 second too early, definitely done. So I'm going to take another shot at this. This is the most difficult part of the challenge for speed trap for this car, which is right at the 250 mile per hour mark at 658 pp point. I just need to launch the nitrous a little bit later and shift a little bit earlier. I'm keeping my fingers crossed here. It looks like it didn't make it. Oh, bummer. Okay. So round 2, 249 again. I'm going to take one more run. This is just like a repeat of my RX-7 video where I did like 5-6 runs just to get to 250 miles per hour. 260, if you're fully maxed, fortunately is a little bit easier to hit. But this 250, the reason I'm showing this is because this is actually the one you're going to struggle the most with, not the 260 mile per hour mark. All right, once again, let's try to get it as perfect as possible. I'm going to wait a little later and fingers crossed, this one's close. If the nitrous doesn't run out at 2, might have made it. That might have just made it to 250 miles per hour. And there it is, 251.68. It's almost a duplicate of what I did on my other video as far as the mile per hour. Again, very, very tight. So that is a 60/40, 2.45, 5.8 nitrous with a fully fusioned out RX-7. I guarantee you, if you're missing 2 or 3 fusions, you're not hitting that. Okay, every PP point counts. At this point, you're only barely scraping by. What that also means for 260 miles per hour, you need full upgrades. Body up to full. The only thing I lowered on that one was body. I had every power adder in the game added in with full fusion just to hit that 250 mile per hour. With the body added in, you now have your chance to hit the 260. That requires a little bit of tweaking again. You need to lower this to where 2.35, where this ends at 260 in fourth gear. It says 249, but with the nitrous tweaks and a little bit, so that's 250. So there's 10 mile per hour off from your go, but you know with nitrous and late usage of it, you can push it through. So again, let's see if we can get 260. Again, the RX-7 can do speed traps, but it doesn't really like to. It's almost like you're forcing it to do it. Unlike the Nsx, which basically runs its way right through it and go, oh, wait, what? I could do more. So this is a little different. This car is kind of like, yeah, it can do sprints real easily, but that mile per hour, struggles a little bit. All right, here we go. 260, bang, done. All right, so fully maxed, this car will pull 260 all day long, no problem, as you can see. However, it's still cutting it kind of close, but it is able to do it, and that allows you to at least complete the entire Tempest 3 Cup with this car as well. It'll do the job, but it'll do it kind of grudgingly when it comes to the speed traps, rather than, like the NSX or some of the faster cars. Oh, no problem with the speed traps, but struggles a bit with the 0 to 60 sprints. This car is the reverse. It'll sprint every one of them and struggle a little bit on the speed traps, but it is one of the 3 free to get cars that can do the job. So here we have the F40, which, much like the NSX, is a car that has high top speed at very low upgrades. Here you're looking at 640 pp with only stage 6 nitrous installed, and it'll easily do 260 mile per hour. Here we have nitrous running about 6.4 duration. With the extra nitrous power, the car is saying 257 mile per hour, but I'm confident it'll do well over 260. That's the nature of these cars. Sometimes the dyno says it'll do less, but you can actually do a lot more. So don't always look at the dyno mile per hour and then go, oh, it's not going to hit 260. You have to try it with the actual test runs to find out. In this case, I'm going to wait till third gear to use nitrous. That gives it the extra push on the top end, and that should get us well over 260. And here we go, 270 something mile per hour with only 640 pp points. So that is pretty impressive. Now, is it like the NSX? Can we do this with just stage 5? Well, I'm not sure. Let's try it and see what happens. So I'm going to go back and now take away nitrous, stage 6, and run this car with only stage 5. It'll require some retuning, but let's see where it puts us with stage 5 only. It's possible that it may still hit 260 because it was 270 something. You're losing the nitrous, but you can adjust the duration to still keep a decent duration on the nitrous. 247, so it's quite a bit slower. It's about 10 miles per hour slower than the last dyno. To hit 260, you're talking about 13 mile per hour additional mile per hour that you have to squeeze out of it. It's possible, and yeah, probable and possible, but not necessarily doable. It depends on how this car reacts on the top end with a shorter nitrous duration. So again, launching it using third gear nitrous. Mind you, the car tops out in fourth gear, so you don't really need to shift into fifth. $255, 5 miles per hour short. Let's try tweaking and running again. I'm going to use the nitrous a little bit later. That usually helps. Let's see if that does in fact produce a faster mile per hour. And again, 260 mile per hour is the goal. This is purely academic. I mean, you really shouldn't be trying to hit 260 mile per hour with this level of upgrades. But if you're able to, that is certainly a good thing to have as far as just getting through the event. 258 won't do the job, but it was close. I'm not going to waste more time doing more runs trying to hit 260. My feeling is if you add any stage 6 from the various ones you can get with this car, you will definitely hit 260. Now, tweaking the grip and stuff doesn't seem to produce a better situation for us, so it really comes down to nitrous use. Maybe a longer duration, maybe something else, but at this point, I'm going to throw in one of the stage 6s and then see if it'll hit 260 that way. Now, my feeling is that any stage 6 with full fusion, this car will easily beat 260 miles per hour. Let's throw in one stage 6, but the worst one of all stage 6s, and that is the intake. So we're going to put intake in here and try it with just stage 6 intake. It should be more than enough to push this car over, so I'm going to go right to test driving it rather than tuning it. Even at the tune it was set at, it was close. This should be able to get it right to the point we need. So here we go. Intake stage 6 only. Going to run it and see if it'll hit 260 mile per hour. I'm driving it the same way, basically nitrous in third. A little bit late in third because it's a shorter duration, around 6K and 262 mile per hour. So that little extra bit from the intake definitely did the job. It pushes the car beyond the 258 to 262. Now again, it may be possible to hit it with just stage 5. I just don't want to spend too much time trying to at this point. So that is the Ferrari F40, which is again a very good car for hitting the 260 mile per hour. So we're moving on to the next car in the series, and that is the 2017 GTR. This is a car that can also do 260 mile per hour. This one is a car that was a Prestige Cup car, and some players definitely have it. It can be built with Nissan parts, but it really needs to be really close to max to pull off the mile per hours we're looking for. Here I have it at 650 APP. As you can see, most of the stage 6s are in full fusion, and we're going to try to hit 250 mile per hour first. So here at 650 APP, the dyno is saying 246 mile per hour. You have a longer duration with nitrous. You have the final drive set basically a stock location, and I have 5347 tire. Without adjusting any of this, it should be enough to hit the mile per hour goal of 250. The car has multiple gears, so you're going to use nitrous late, fourth gear nitrous rather than second or third gear, and it should allow you to get a pretty good run out of the car. So here we go. Second, third, fourth gear nitrous, and here we're about to top out on 6th gear, 253 mile per hour. So that hits the target number for the 658 PP at 250 without a problem. We're going to move on and now do the 260 mile per hour setup. Obviously, to hit 260, you're going to need to upgrade more or less to max for this car. It's going to basically be upgraded with all the stage 6s and full fusion at that point, and should be able to complete the 260 mile per hour with all upgrades. So again, this is a fully upgraded car. Unlike, say, the NSX, this car, much like the RX-7 and the HPE, needs a lot more upgrades to hit the mile per hour. Here you can see right from the dyno, 265 miles per hour. So it's definitely going to be able to do it. If a car dyno's already over the mile per hour, there's no real need to test drive it. You know it's going to hit it. If you can't hit it, try to drive with different techniques, different timing for nitrous. If it dynos it, it's going to hit it. So you should be fine for hitting 260 mile per hour with the Nissan GTR. That then brings us to the next car in this series, which is the LB Nsx. This car, much like the regular Nsx, can easily do 260 mile per hour. Hey, it's the LB version. It's got to be better, right? So the LB Nsx's strength lies very similar to the regular Nsx. It accelerates and then it hits high top speeds. Here with just stage 5 parts, it already dynos 265 miles per hour. So there should be no problem hitting it. We're going to try it again the same way we did the regular Nsx, which is to try to run it without using nitrous and see if it in fact can also hit 260 without utilizing nitrous at all. It shifts much like the normal one, lots of gears, basically perfect shifts. So it's picking up. It looks like it's doing the job. It's a little tight. 264. Okay, so it did the job. No nitrous, stage 5 only. Much like the regular Nsx, should be no problem hitting the speed traps with this car. And that's a good thing. Now, the problem with the LB Nsx is that it does not, in fact, hit the sprints. The toughest sprint in the Tempest 3 series is a 1.494. The regular Nsx can hit that, but the LB actually has difficulties doing it. So here we're going to put every stage 6 back in. We're going to max out the car. And I'm going to go ahead and try to hit the sprints. Now with the sprints, the tuning is real simple. It's a right, right, left, meaning you're pulling it all the way to the right for both nitrous and trans, and all the way to the left for tire. Right, right, left. 1.588 is the theoretical 0 to 60 you will hit, but can we in fact hit 1.494? From what I understand, the answer is no. Other players have tried it and have not had any success. I'm going to give it one shot and see where I end up at. You're probably going to have to do it much like the regular Nsx and kind of launch, shift, nitrous, and then bang the gears real quick. I didn't do it perfectly there. It's a little bit behind on the first 2 gears, so probably not a great 0 to 60 run. Let's see what the number comes out to be. 1.646. Yeah, it didn't even hit the dyno, so that's not good. This is not going to cut it for the sprints. But that's an issue that is known for the LB Nsx. For some reason, it doesn't do sprints as well as the regular Nsx. And therefore, it is one of the cars that can do the 260 mile per hour, but it's not one of the cars that will do it and do the sprint. So it cannot beat the entire event all by itself. You will need to at some points swap a car out and try to get the sprints done with a different car. So that's going to cost you some gold. Now, that brings us to a new addition. This is an interesting car. This is coming as a future PC car. We'll get it in 2 seasons. Here, I already have one sitting in the garage max. So therefore, I'm going to showcase it because it too can do 260 miles per hour, despite the fact that if you see the low Evo, that's always a concern, right? The Evo looks pretty bad, but the dyno says it's going to run fast, and a test run will confirm whether it can do the job. So here, this is the Asc Camaro. This is the new car. It's coming. We'll have it. Everybody will have access to it in 2 seasons, but some people are already pulling it on their accounts because it is available in the game already. All right, so 254. Okay, so it beat the 250 mile per hour at the 658 pp point. That's good. That means that it is capable. So that particular challenge is doable with this car as well. And 254 is good enough to move us to the final challenge, which will be the 260 mile per hour with this Camaro. It'll require you to, again, upgrade basically to max, and that's not going to be easy with a brand new car that doesn't have fusions readily available. Unless you just happen to have tons of Chevy Fusions sitting around, this may be a difficult thing to actually achieve. So here, I did the same thing I did with the RX-7. I only lowered the body to hit that 658. Now I'm putting it back to fully maxed, and I'm going to run it with a little bit of tuning adjustment to make sure that it can hit 260. It says 257 on the dyno. I'm going to move the final drive just enough to hit 260. It's theoretically still stuck at 257, but I have some confidence using the nitrous on time, I will be able to get 260 out of the car. You'll still be using nitrous a little bit later than you may otherwise do it. But again, that pushes the car that few extra miles per hour over to get you into the 260 range. So that wasn't a perfect launch, but that shouldn't affect too much. So late nitrous, fourth gear, fifth gear, still spinning tires, sixth gear, this is going to be the key here, and 264 mile per hour, well over 260. Therefore, no issue at all to get that 260 mile per hour. So there you go, 264, well over 260. The Evo, again, doesn't look that great, but hey, it does the job. So that is a new addition that is now able to also hit 260 mile per hour. It gives us another option beyond the normal few that I showcased in the other garage. So these are the cars that are obtainable. Now, what about these? These are all the Fast and Furious cars. They can also do the job. The first one is the BR9, which will easily destroy the target number. 295 mile per hour, 1.915, 0 to 60, but it can actually do the entire event pretty easily. The thing is, most of you guys won't have access to this car, and some who do have it do not have it built enough. The Eclipse is another car that can do the job. I actually have a video on the Eclipse, so you can look at that video and get a feel for how easily the Eclipse can do the entire event. Veilside RX-7 will hit the 260 mile per hour as well, but it also struggles with the sprints, much like the Nsx, the LB Nsx and the F40. So it's one of those cars that'll do the 260 mile per hour really easily, but it won't do the sprints. So again, this is a car that will need a little bit of switching to actually get through the whole event. I'm not going to do detailed showcase of these because it's really not something that's necessary. If you're interested in these specific cars, feel free to ask me about them. Now, so that gives us a total of 10 cars here that can easily do the job. People have told me that the Shell's F-Type will do it as well, but I couldn't hit it, so I have not been able to replicate a 260 mile per hour. The best I did was 250. I'm taking it off the list of possible 260 mile per hour cars until someone proves me wrong. So you have 6 cars that are in tier 4, 7 counting the new car that can do it, and 3 Fast and Furious cars, which really nobody can really get access to for new guys. So really you're down to about 7 possible cars that'll do the entire event. So I hope this video was helpful to you and that this information will help you better gauge your readiness for Tempest 3, Tier 4. Most of these cars are going to be kind of a bit of a long-term build because they're hard to get fusions for, but they can certainly do the job if you have the car and you have the patience to build them up right. Please feel free to ask me questions about these specific cars. I'm happy to do additional videos if they're called for. And if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications when I put new videos up. And as always, I do appreciate everyone who watches my videos and comments on them. Thank you for watching and have a good one.